In this video, we're going to build out this fully functional full stack dashboard. In it, we're going to display data such as how much money we've made from our SaaS, how many people are paying for our SaaS, total users all time, users this month, the past 7 to 10 users that have signed up, recent sales we've made from our app. In addition, we'll have stuff like a goal progress so we can have like a target for our money goal. And finally, some charts to display our data for both users and the amount we've made. And the tech stack of this video will include NextJS, Tailwind CSS, Shad CN UI, Prisma, and NeonDB in the backend. And by the way, all the documentation will be left down below. And if you're ever lost on anything, then check out the Discord to ask for some questions. And with that being said, let's get into this full stack dashboard tutorial. And within our terminal, let's just install a few things. The first one being NextJS. So let's just do npx create next app at latest, and then the / to get into the root of the app. And then let's just run it like this. And then here, we're just going to create enter. We're just going to hit enter for all of them. And it may take some time to load, so just let it go. And so once we've installed Next, let's just get into installing a couple of things that we may need throughout this app. The first one obviously being Shad CN UI. It's a component library and I just love it. I use it in almost all of my applications and I highly recommend it. All we need to do is write npx Shad CN UI in it. And then do we need TypeScript? Yes. I'm going to go with the default option, the Slate option, and then global CSS, yes. CSS variables, yes. Where's your Tailwind? Yes, that one too. Just hit enter on all of them. And so for now, right, if we just clear out everything, we're going to need to install a couple more things, but we'll do that later. But for now, we can just run npm run dev to run our application and check out localhost 3000. So let's just go here, make this a little bit smaller, and then run localhost 3000 over here. And to remove everything here, let's just remove everything like this in the page directory, and then there'll be nothing on the page to display. Now this will be where we will call everything and display all the data. So I'm gonna change it from home to dashboard page. Or just dashboard, just like this. And let's just see if it works. Let's just write hi. And there we go, it will work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my components folder over here, and I'm gonna create a couple of files that we will need throughout the app. So the first one being barchart.tsx, the other one being dashboard.card.tsx. And let me just do something like this. We also need goal.tsx for our goal. We're gonna need line graph.tsx. We're gonna need the user data card.tsx. And finally, the user purchase card.tsx. So all of these will play a big role in displaying the user data in our app. And so the first thing we will need to work on is the dashboard card. Now, there's no real purpose to the dashboard card. It's not like an actual part of the app. Rather, it'll help us format everything so we don't have to repeat things like the width of a card or the background color of a card. And since most of the cards will look the same, I want to do this so that A, we're following good practices, and B, you have an understanding of how things like this work. And one of the main things we will need is an icon library to display some cool icons that we may like. So I'm just gonna install Lucid React for that. I personally like Lucid React, but if there's one you personally like, then just go with that. In addition, I forgot to talk about this real quick, but I wanna create a background.tsx. This will just have a cool little grid background that I use in most of my applications. And so this is what it would look like. I'm not gonna go into this because it's not part of the video, but if you wanna copy it, again, it'll be left in the GitHub repository, but just a cool little gradient that I like to add. But anyways, let's actually just get into the actual development. And so let's just create our interface just like this with the dashboard card props, just like this. And in each of these cards, I want a label of string. We will also need an icon, and this will be a Lucid icon just like this. We'll need an amount, which will be a number. Actually, we'll make this any because we may have some text. And finally, we'll have a description of a string. And so we're getting an error here from the Lucid React icon because we have to import it. So let's just do that real quick. So import Lucid icon from Lucid React, just like this, and the error should go away. And so next we need to export const dashboard card and then equals to the label icon amount, finally the description. And then in here, we're gonna have the dashboard card props and then return with the div, just like this. And so in here, we're gonna have a background of, let's just say slate 100 divided by 80 for now, or actually 40. And they're going to have a shadow, a flex, a width full, a flex col, gap of 3, a rounded 6 pixel, and a p of 5. And within here, we're going to also have a section with a class name of flex, justify between, gap of 2. And here we're going to display our first piece of data, which will be the label. And it's going to have a class name of text small. And then we're going to display the icon over here. And this will actually have a height of 4 and a width of 4, just like that. And then we're going to create another section. This will all make sense in a second. And the same thing, we're going to have a class name, but this time is going to be a flex, flex col, and a gap of 2. And here we're going to have an h2 with the amount and a p tag with a class name of text sm. And here we're going to have the description. And I forgot to design this, so it'll be font medium and a text of 2XL. Actually, you know what? Semi-bold. And so the final thing we need in this page is an export function dashboard card content with the props of react.html attributes. So this one over here. And within it, we're going to have an HTML div element. Close that up, and then curly brackets, and return here a div with all the props. So ... props. Oh, my bad. So it's a self-closing div with, in here, it's gonna have the props like this, and then a class name equals to cn. So import cn from libs-utils. Make sure you're importing it up here. And then the regular brackets. And then here we're gonna have a flex width of full, flex col, gap of 3, rounded 6 pixels, padding of 5, shadow, and then bg slate 100 divided by 40. So we're just making sure they all have this. And then we're also gonna have a comma here with the props.class name. So this just makes it easier to like manage all of the designs. And so let's actually call it here. So let's just do something like dashboard card, just like this, and then close it up. And we're getting a red because we need to have everything here. So let's just do something like label equals to, yeah, let's do total revenue first. We're gonna have an icon. Let's just do a $sign from Lucid React. Just remember that. We also need the amount, and this will actually be called from our database. But for now, let's just put something like 12,000. Oops, 12,000. But again, we're gonna change this up to be more dynamic. And then we're going to have a description saying total revenue generated this month. And you can see if we open this up, we have a beautiful card over here. So you know what? Let's just go back into our dashboard card and let's add a little border here. Border, and then I think that looks fine for now. So border looks good. And guess what? Since we did this dashboard card, all we need to do is just add it a couple more times and we can just change up whatever we need here. For example, first one we can do is just do is all time over here. Could also do all time over here, all time over here as well. However, on the last one, we can just do something like this month. And don't worry, we can change these up. Maybe something like total paid subs, total users maybe, and maybe users this month. But as you can see, as we're updating these, on the side over here, it's also changing. So that's what I really like about creating a little boilerplate thing and then calling it. It's just a lot faster. And then here we can call maybe the calendar from Lucid React. Here we can do like a person standing from Lucid React. And here we could do like a user plus, maybe user plus from Lucid React. So we've done basically almost half of the UI, but one thing I don't like and we need to work on is the width and the looks of this, right? It does not look good at all. So all we need to do here is just class name this div and do a flex col, gap 5 and width of full. And then maybe we're going to have like an H1 saying dashboard, just so we know it's the dashboard, and a class name of maybe text2XL, font bold, text center, and like an MX of 6. And then here's where we're going to design these. So it's already spaced out, but let's just do a div like this. And here we're going to have a container, MX of auto, and a PY of 8. And then we're going to have another div here, and then open this up like this. And we're going to have a flex col, gap of 5, and a width of full, just like that. And finally, I'm sorry if this is repetitive, but we're going to have a section here. So again, this is all one thing, okay? The dashboard has not been touched. So in the section, right, we're going to just copy this, and put it within the section over here. And within this, we're going to have a class name. Surprise, surprise. It's going to be a grid width of full grid pulls 1 gap of 4, a gap x of 8, a transition all, and then a small grid calls of 2, and maybe like an XL grid calls of 4. And I don't know why I'm putting it here. I need to put it up here, just like that. And so now if we open this up, you can see it looks great. I think this looks amazing, especially with the gradient in the background, but you can see it's formatted perfectly. And as we, the screen gets smaller, it's formatted better, right? So just like that, it looks pretty good. And so awesome. So as of now, right, we've done the design of the top parts of this card, still not functional. So what we'll do in this section of the video and tutorial is create our database and backend. And then after that, we're gonna call all the data we need, create the graphs, and get everything in order and make this real functional. And what we will be using in the backend is Prisma and NeonDB. These are just personal preferences that I like to use, but if there's one that you would like to use or change up, then feel free to use that. And so to install Prisma first, we're gonna run npm-d Prisma. And we're also gonna run npm install @prisma/client. So let's just run that. And so if we go to our package.json, and I'm going to commit everything in a second here so that everything's a little bit clear, we should have our Prisma over here and Prisma client over here. And so once we have that installed, we need to go into our lib folder here and create something called a db.ts. And this will just allow us to manage our DB and call the data that we want in the front end. And we're going to import Prisma client from @Prisma/client, just like this. And I just realized it's just @Prisma client, my bad. And then we're gonna declare a global variable var Prisma client, or undefined, and my bad again. And then an export const db is equal to global this dot Prisma, or a new Prisma client. And then finally, we're gonna have a if process.env.node_env does not equal to a production, then we're gonna have a global.this Prisma equals to db. So this is just the setup of the db, so don't worry about that. And then once we have that, we can just run our Prisma. So we can just do npx Prisma init. This is just initializing the Prisma graph, what am I talking about? The Prisma folder. And in here, we'll have some boilerplate code, which we will fix in a second. But a couple more things for the backend setup. We need to connect to a Postgres database like we have here. And we just talked about this. We need to go to neon.tech. And once you're logged in, you're gonna just create the project. So I'm just gonna call this dashboard, just like this. I'm gonna delete these. And the database name, we're just gonna leave that empty, and we're just gonna create the project. And once we're in here, we're gonna go to Prisma, and we're gonna copy this. So we're just gonna do that, and then go back into your Prisma folder, and at the top here, and then remove this database source, and you're just gonna replace it with the one they gave us. And why this is important is that once we go into our env file, and then here we're gonna go to our env, we're gonna show the password, and we're gonna copy this database URL. And this is important because this is how we're gonna connect to our DB, and we will paste it in here in replacement of the other one. And that's it. That's all we need to do to connect. And I'm just gonna leave this open. So hold on, I'm just gonna log in. And so right now we have connected our DB, but we still don't have anything in our database, right? We don't have anything here. We don't have any data. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my GitHub, and then I'm gonna go into my Nizzy starter. Everything's gonna be in this dashboard thing, but I'm just gonna call the data that is already in another project of mine. It'll be a lot easier because look how much data there is. So I'm just gonna copy and paste everything here, and I believe I have to delete a couple of things. So these three over here, and remove this. So I'm gonna leave all of this code again in a GitHub repository. You can just copy this because I'm not gonna write all of this just for you to just go by it step by step. So just copy this, you'll be fine. and you'll have like a fake, you could say fake model in database. And to make sure it works, I'm going to go back into my Neon Tech here. I'm going to press get started. And then I am going to run npx prisma db push to push everything. And hopefully this will work. And then I'm going to clear everything and do npx prisma studio to run it. And if you go back, you can see we have all these models where we can input data that we want. So great job so far. We've just set up the database, we've connected to the database, and we have a fake model and database connection so that, you know, when it's time for you to display data, at least you know what you have to do. But guess what? For now, we've only displayed a couple of things. So let's just get into displaying other pieces of data, right? For example, I want to display the recent users that have signed up into our app. And we'll just get the UI over and done with first, and then we'll get into the functionalities. So let's just do that. Let me remove what we do not need. Let's go into our user data card.tsx. And within here, we're gonna export type user data props. And then we're gonna do something like this, where we're gonna have a name of string. We're also gonna have an email of string, an image of any, and then a time of string. So here, right, what's going on is we are setting everything up and we're exporting this props because when we want to call this data into the front end, which is then from our database, right? We're going to post this in the front end, but we're calling it from a database. The database knows that these are the things we're looking for and that it should display. And because in our Prisma, we created a user where they have like a name, email, and image, we know that they are created. But anyways, let's export default function user data props, or actually it's just data card. And then a props like this with the user data props, and then open that up with curly brackets. And here we're gonna return a div with a class name of flex wrap, justify between, gap of 3. And we're also gonna have a section here with a class name of flex justify between, gap of 3. And then another div here for the image. So this will be for our image just like this. And here we're gonna have a class name of height of 12, width of 12, rounded full, BG of secondary, or you know what, BG slate 120, and a border, and a shadow of large, just like that. But you know what, I just realized we don't need these, so actually, you know what? Let's just keep them for now. You know what? No. Because we're only displaying the image, so it doesn't matter. And with the image, we're going to have a width of 300, a height of also 300. And the source will be the props.image, just like this. Or, and here, what we're going to do real quick is have a const default image, because some users will not have an image. So we're just going to have something like this, or default image, just like that. Then we have an alt equals to avatar and a class name of rounded full, height of 12, width of 12. And for this default image, I'm just going to look up something like a mesh gradient, and then let's just get one. So maybe something like, maybe something like this or this. This looks nice, right? So let's just copy this, just call it mesh, and then grab that, go into our public folder and just put it here. And then all we need to do is just call ./mesh.png. So great job so far. So what we need to do next is have another div with a class name of text small, have a p tag with the props.name, and then a div here with the props.email. Here we're gonna have a text of ellipsis, overflow hidden, white space normal, actually no wrap, width of 120 pixels, small width auto, and we're good. And actually opacity of maybe 30. And then underneath this section, we're just gonna have a p tag with the time when the user signed up. So props.time. And a class name here will be tiny. So class name, class name is equal to text small. And so I know what you may be saying right now. It's like, Nazar, how are you going to display this? And so in a regular page, like what we will be doing is we're going to call the dashboard card content that we did at the start of the video. We're going to wrap it. And within this, we're just going to display the user data card and then with whatever data we want. For example, the name could be something like John. The image could be something like mesh, or actually, yeah, we can just have the mesh like this. And you can already see the name is already popping up. The email could be something like john@gmail.com. And then the time would be like 2 hours ago. Again, all of this will be displayed dynamically. Like we're going to call it from the database as if a user was created. But you can see this looks pretty cool. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to dynamically display this data. So instead of just writing everything out like this, I want it so that every time a user is created, the user will be displayed over here. And so let's just copy this and delete this. And then here we're going to have a section for that. So we're going to create a section. We're going to have a class name of grid cols of 1, gap of 4, transition all. I don't know why I forgot it again, but it's actually going to be a large grid cols of 2. And so now if we want to display this, right, it'll just be like this. And then within here, we can actually just maybe write a section with like recent users and a user round check. And then let's just design these. So maybe like height of 4, width of 4. And then here we do maybe like a flex justify between, gap of 2 maybe. I don't know. Padding bottom of 2 as well. So you can see it just looks a lot cooler. And so what the goal of the rest of the video will be is we're going to design it first, display some boilerplate data, and then we're going to actually dynamically display that data. And I'm just going to go into displaying this real quick, and I'm going to talk about it real quick. But the whole point of displaying these types of data and how it works is that there is information in our database, whether that be the NeonDB or the Prisma Studio here. There's data over there. And what we will be doing is talking to this database or ORM and calling that data in the front end. So when we're calling maybe a user, we're going to tell it, hey, I am looking for the user name, the user email, and the user password, or not password, never do the password. Display it in the front end for me, please. That's all we're doing, okay? And so how we can do that with Prisma and why we set up the Prisma is so we can do something like this. So maybe we can do fetch recent users just like this, and const recent users is equal to await db. So import db. Make sure you're importing db from @/libdb, and make sure your app or this page is async. db dot, and you can see there's a bunch over here. So we're gonna call the db.user, and essentially this user is from this over here. So this db.user dot find many, just like this. So hopefully there's no errors as of now. And then we're gonna order by, open this up, and then created at descending orders. And so we're gonna call it from the most recent user. And finally over here, we're gonna have a take of only 7. So we only wanna display the 7 most recent. We don't wanna have like 100 different users displayed. So just the 7 most recent ones. Then also what we need to do is const user data over here, and then the user data props. And so what we're doing here is just organizing it. And so we're just calling the user data props. So import it from @components user data card, and then equals to recent users dot map. So we're mapping through this, and then have the user, or actually let's just do account. So it's a little bit more readable, and then close the brackets like this. So I'm just gonna show you it real quick. So this is what it should look like. And then we're gonna have the name. It's gonna be account.name or unknown. We're gonna have the email, account.email, unknown. We're gonna have the image, account.image, or else it's gonna be the mesh.png. And finally, for the time, right, this is gonna be a little bit confusing, but that's fine. We're gonna have something called format distance to now, and then new date account dot created at, comma add suffix true. Okay, So what this is, right, and we have to install this, is a library that allows us to calculate the time of when something happens. And before installing it, I just want to talk about how we're doing all this if you're ever confused, okay? Essentially here, we're mapping through all the users in our database, and we're telling it to display the most recent 7. And how we're displaying this data and how we got like the name, email, and image is just going through the user, which is this over here, and then we're grabbing the name, email, and whatever else. And to get this to work, we need to install something called datefns. So I'll just grab that. So npm install datefns -- save. So let's just do that. And then at the top here, we're going to do import format distance to now from datefns. And you can see now there's no more errors. And I know it's a lot of work, and trust me, it'll get a little bit easier, but we just need to display it over here. And to do that, right, let's just delete this real quick. And we will be mapping through user data.map and have the data, comma, index, arrow it, and that should be the regular brackets. And in here, we're gonna have the user data card, close that up. We're gonna have the key of index, the name of data.name, email data.email, image data.image, and time data.time. However, you're noticing that there's no data. So what we can do is just add a record in our Prisma Studio. So here we're just gonna get anything. I'm just gonna call this maybe Nizzy. Email would be like nizzyabby@gmail.com. The email verified, we can just leave that. Password, it could be whatever. And hopefully we can save the changes. And you can see there's an instance of a user, okay? And if we refresh the page, hopefully, there we go. So you can see that a user was created when we created a user. And if you have authentication and you connect it to your auth and the auth data, this will work. And so all we need to do now is just repeat the process for user purchase data and the data over here. For example, let's just make some space over here. And so for example, let's say we wanted to fetch like the sales amount. All we need to do is just create a const sales count is equal to await db.purchase data. So .purchase.count. So they have a .count, it just makes things a lot easier. And because we're counting the amount of subscribers or paid users, then we can just go into maybe the total paid subscriptions. And in the amount, we could do something like this with a $ sales count. And it's obviously going to be 0, but we can just add a plus over here like this. And it's 0, right? But what we can do is we can just close this up and go into our purchase. And here we can just add an instance, right? So let's just grab maybe this user ID, go into the purchase, display this, and then amount could be something like 40, whatever, and save the changes. And hopefully now if we refresh the page, we'll have 1 subscribed users. See how easy that is? Pretty simple. And for maybe something like total revenue, we could do something like this. Sales total this time. So maybe like const sales total is equal to await db.purchase.aggregate, and then open it up. And in here, we can have an underscore sum with the amount to true. And then here we can have the const total amount. So the total amount of sales is equal to the sales total dot underscore sum dot amount, or else it'll be 0, just like this. And now we just need to call this in here. So we can just do something like this, total amount. And you can see because we put in $40, right, as the amount, maybe we can change this to 50 if we want. And we can save it. So then whenever a user pays for something, if we refresh the page, you can see it's $50. So again, all we're doing here is just displaying data. And maybe if we want to count the total users, just like the sales count, we can do something like user count, and then const user count is equal to await db.user.count, and then just display this over here, or over here. So here we need to do something like, plus user count. So we have +1 users because there's obviously 1 user, right? And then for something like users this month, you're probably guessing we could just use the datefns library where we're just counting the users after a certain point. So users count this month maybe. Then here we can do const maybe user count month is equal to await db.user dot count, and then instead of just closing it, we're going to open it up, and here we're going to have a few points that we need to hit. So where maybe created at, and then the GTE is start of month, so from date FNS, so we're importing start of month, but GTE is already part of the Prisma. Current date, and then comma, latest time would be the end of month, current date. And to get the current date, all we need to do is just maybe something like const current date is equal to new date, and this is just a regular JavaScript function. And so what we're doing here is we're using the end of month and start of month from date FNS, and we're just saying at the earliest it should be the start of the month, and at the latest the user can be at the end of this month. And then to display this, right, we can just again call it in here, where we will just do something like this, where it's close that up. So user count month, and hopefully it should display 1. And if we change the created at for the user to last month, right? So maybe it's maybe April, we should have 0 as the amount. There we go. So cool, right? So for now, we have displayed recent users. We've displayed all the data or dynamic data, so that when you do develop an application and you do have some actual data from a user, you can call it here. What we could do next is display the purchase data of the user. So maybe something like the recent user, but for purchases. So when someone purchases something on your app, you can see who purchased it and how much they paid for it. I think that's pretty cool. And so to do something like this, let's just grab another one of these dashboard card content, display here, and then maybe recent sales, and then change this to maybe a credit card or something cool like that. Oops, credit card, import that from Lucid React. And so you guessed it, we just need to, instead of user data.map, we're gonna have to create another function and do fetch recent sales, and do the same process here. But we first actually have to do a user purchase card over here. And actually, screw it, let's just go into the user data and just copy it. And obviously user data card, we can just do user purchase card, user purchase props, like that, and then purchase props over here. And then instead of time, we're just gonna do like sale amount, and then sale amount over here. So again, we just copied the user data card from before, and we just changed it from time to purchase amount. And so we can just close these up. And so what we can do here, right, is just do const recent sales is equal to await db.purchase.find many. It should be order by created at descending, comma, take 7, and then include the user to be true. So we're just including the user here. And then this is just half of what we have to do. So let's just do a const. And let me see what we're forgetting here, because we're obviously missing something. So user purchase data, user purchase card. Okay, so I think I know what we're missing. So card. And this, so we actually have to import then user purchase props and user purchase card, just like that. Don't forget that comma over here. And so now we have the user purchase card over here. We can do the user purchase props. And why are we getting an error? Is declared but never read. Okay, so we can just ignore that real quick. Then we can do recent sales dot map purchase is equal to the curly brackets and the regular brackets, and this is what it should be looking like. And like the last time, we're gonna have the name purchase dot user name, email purchase dot user dot email, image purchase dot user dot image, and finally the same amount or same sale amount, which is the purchase dot amount. And real quick, here we're gonna have or 0 just in case. And I'm actually gonna wrap this in a regular bracket dot fixed 2. So 2 decimal places. That's what we're doing here. So sale amount, purchase amount, to fixed 2. And then all we need to do here is user purchase data.map, user purchase card. Oh, okay. So is equal, my bad. Const, sorry, okay. So again, I think we messed up somewhere, which is totally fine. It's gonna be purchase card over here. And then we're going through the props, okay? And then here, we're mapping through the purchase data, which is purchase card. It shouldn't be purchase data. Purchase card.map. And instead of the time, it's going to be the sale amount, data.sale amount. Okay, I totally apologize. That's my fault. So purchase card, we're mapping through this. So make sure you're naming this purchase card, and then you're getting the props, and then you're mapping through it here, and then you're just displaying it here. And if you go over here, you can see we have the purchase or sales amount, which is $50 that we paid for. Whew. Need a cup of coffee after that. And if you want to know what the design looks like, there you go. I think it looks pretty awesome. And we can actually just change this from grid to grid. And then now if it gets a certain amount, you can see amazing. I think this just looks awesome. Again, the data works. So if you want to add another purchase user, or let's actually create another user. So another user, Johnny, email would be johnny@gmail.com. Password, whatever, just like that. And then save the changes. Once we refresh the page, we have another user, which is Johnny. And then in the purchase, we can add another record where the user, let's say it's this one. We can then go back into purchase, user ID, $200. Johnny's spending some mad money. Save the changes. And then refresh, you will see the data pop up here. There we go. Perfect. Everything works. Total revenue is updated too. Total users are updated as well. Total paid subscriptions also works. So perfect. Right now, we've displayed a couple pieces of data. Next up, we are going to display some graphs. So we're going to display a bar chart and a line graph and then a goal progress. So let's just delete what we do not need. So the layout we don't need. And let's just close everything in here. So again, this is what we have. And so what we could do now is go into our bar chart and we can create our first graph of the day. And so we actually have to mark this as a use client. And what we will need is to import, and it'll be a bunch of things, from a library called Recharts. And so to install this, let's just look up Recharts install, get that. So npm install Recharts. I'm honestly not surprised that's what it is. I should have known. And now if we wait a bit, it should work. So Recharts like that. And what we need from here is bar chart. We're actually going to call it bar graph. So something like this. We'll also need the responsive container, the x-axis, the y-axis, the bar, the Cartesian axis, or actually the Cartesian grid, and that's it. That's all we need. And so obviously we need to export type bar chart props is equal to data, month, string, and then total number. Frankly, I'm not sure what data we're going to display, so that's why I'm doing it something like this. But we need two things, which is the month and the total. And once we have that, we're going to export default function with a bar chart and then data over here like this. And the bar chart props, export that, return. And within here, we just need to design things. So div, class name, shadow, width of full, flex, col, gap of 3, rounded 6 pixels like we have throughout this entire day, and a padding of 5. And then here we're gonna have a section, class name of flex, justify between like we have been doing, gap of 2, and a padding bottom of 2. And you know what, let's just display the sales data here. So the sales data per month. And for the icon, let's just do maybe like a candlestick chart from Lucid React with a height of 4 and a width of 4. And then here we're going to actually display our first piece of data. And it's only the one piece of data, but it's going to be the responsive container. And here I guess we have to display the width, which will be 100%. So like this. In addition, the height can be something like 350. And we're still getting an error because I think we have to display stuff in here. So again, it'll be bar graph. And the data within here will be this stuff over here. And like you were thinking, we're going to call this into our page.tsx. And we're going to do the same thing we've been doing over and over again, where we're calling stuff from the database. So the data of this will be data. And for the sake of design, let's just do this. It'll be margin, top of 20, left of -10, right of 10. And that's all we need. And here we're going to call the Cartesian grid with the stroke dashed array 33. This is just the dashed in the background. And then we need to call the x-axis and the y-axis. So x-axis and y-axis. And here's going to be data key with month. So we're calling this from here. So this will be the month in the x-axis. And then tick line equals to false. X-axis line false. Tick margin 10. Honestly, we don't even need the tick margin. Font size of maybe 13 or 12. And then padding of left 10, right of 10. And we can just copy this in here. And instead of top, it'll be top and bottom, right? And instead of month, it'll be total. And let's just add this spacing over here. And we don't want decimals, so let's just add allow decimals of false. And then for the tick formatter, it's going to be value. And then we want it to be the dollar, right? It's going to have a $sign and then display that value in there. And we're going to copy this and put it into our line chart and just change up a couple of things. But the final thing we need to do is at the bottom here, just call the bar and have a data key is equal to total. And let's just add a radius, why not, of 5, 5, 0, 0, and then have a stroke black, then fill black, and then close that up. And let's see what we're missing here. Single child, but multiple children were provided. And so I think what we're missing here is we have to put this in here. There we go. So make sure that the bar is within the bar graph tag. And so what we need to do now is just call it. So maybe underneath the section over here, we can create another section, and you guessed it. We're gonna have a class name of grid cols 1, large it'll be grid cols 2, and gap of 4, transition all. Within here we're gonna have the bar chart just like this, and we have to call the data. So the data will be whatever we call in here. And this one's gonna be the most confusing out of all, but users this month, we're going to be displaying and we're going to be doing some complex things. So just stay tuned with me real quick. But all we need to do is just call const monthly, or actually users this month is equal to await db.user.group by, and then by a certain amount. So by created at underscore count created at true, and then order by created at and ascending, not descending, so make sure it's ASC. And then here we're also going to do a const monthly users data, and here we're going to do an each month of interval from date FNS. So we're importing each date or each month of interval. And within here we need a couple of things. Firstly, we need a start of month, and import this from date FNS, and it's going to be the current date, or actually, you know what, it's going to be the new date. So new date, users this month 0 question mark dot created at, or new date, just like this, and then a comma over here, and we're going to have the end date, which is end of month. And let's just do this. It's just going to be the current date. just like this. And so what we're doing here, right, is we're setting the start of the month and the end of the month, with the start of the month being obviously start of the month, which we're importing from date FNS. And then the last thing we need to do here is we're going to map through that. So map through month is equal to curly brackets. And here we're going to have a const month string is equal to format month, comma, just the month. And I think we have to import format. So format from date FNS, then const monthly equal to users this month dot filter user format new date user dot created at comma mmm triple equal to month string. And we're actually going to have a dot reduce as well, total comma user plus user dot underscore count dot created at comma 0. It's like that. Then all we need to do now is just return the month string users this month. Actually, not users this month. It'll be users monthly. User monthly. There we go. So I know this is a lot. We're just getting the data of when the user signed up within a time period, okay? And so now we can just grab this monthly user data, but we're seeing an error here. So it's not assignable. And I just realized I think I know what we did wrong. It's not users, it's total. So my bad on that. But now, if we go into our app, we will see the data displaying the sales. This is amazing, guys. So it's showing the amount from April, which was $1, and then from June, $1. And I just realized, okay, we are not displaying the sales data. We are displaying the user data, which is totally fine. So what we can do, right, is in our bar chart, we can just do user data like this. And maybe something like user from Lucid React. And instead of $1, we don't even need that. We just need the value of value and then the number of users. So now when we look at this, right, the user data will have 1 user in May or April, no users in May, and 1 in June. If you really want, we can do like a BG gray of 200 like we have been doing. You know what? BG slate of 200 maybe. I don't know. I don't even know what it looks like. There we go. BG slate of maybe 90. There we go. Looks cool. And so what we can do is actually just do the exact same thing, but a line chart. So in our line graph, we could just copy this from the bar chart, and let's just make this a little bit bigger and just paste it in here. And instead, let's just do a line chart. Have the candlestick, change this to line chart, and line chart. And here we can have the sales data with the candlestick chart. And instead of the line graph, or instead of the line chart, we're going to have the line chart. And here, instead of the Cartesian, we're just going to have a line, and we're going to import that from Recharts. Let's have a type of monotone. So monotone. Can have a data key of total and a stroke of black. Just like that. And then here it's going to be month total. And here we're actually going to have the sales data. So we're going to have the $sign. And then down here, we're going to have the Cartesian grid. It's going to be the stroke dashed array of 3, 3. And now, what are we missing here? I don't understand. Maybe this? I still don't understand what I'm messing up. Oh, I see. So, okay. So instead of calling it line chart for the export default, we're going to call it graph because we named it twice. So that's why we need to call this in the page. So line graph. And then like we did with the monthly users, we need to display the monthly sales. So let me close everything in here and let's just do the exact same thing, but sales this month. And so what we need to do here is const sales this month is equal to await db.purchase.group by, and then by created at comma underscore sum amount to be true. Again, let's make this bigger. And then order by created at ascending. And there we go. And then the calculation is gonna be const monthly sales data is equal to each month of interval. We're just doing the same thing. Open that up. So here we're gonna have the start of month, and then the end of month. So let's just do this one first. So new date, sales this month, 0 question mark dot created at or new date, and then map through this, or we're mapping through each month where we are displaying the const month string is equal to the format month triple month, and then the const, we're doing the exact same thing, but instead now it's going to be sales in month is equal sales this month. So we're calling this over here dot filter, where we're calculating the sale, and then format new date sale dot created at comma month triple equal to month string dot reduce total comma sale is equal to total plus sale dot underscore sum dot amount, and here we're gonna have an exclamation point because it could be null, comma 0. And then finally over here we're gonna return the month, which is the month string, and the total is going to be sales in month. Oops, sales in month, just like that. And now all we need to do is in here call the data, and then sales or monthly sales data. And now if we go in here, we will see that there is nothing. And let's just open this up. So we're just seeing the amount made in June. So let's actually go into our Prisma Studio and let's manipulate this a little bit, right? Instead of being in June, let's just update this to being in like maybe May. And now it should update to have 2. There we go. Perfect. And so we can just end things here. And I think most tutorials would end things here where they're just showing a couple of graphs, a couple of user data, etc., etc. But one thing I really want to do is show a monthly goal for us entrepreneurs who want to like have a user goal or a monthly goal. And so what we can do is we can just close up the graph, and then our goal.tsx, we can do an export type goal props. Open that up, and we're gonna have a value of number and a goal, which is also gonna be a number. And then here we're gonna have an export default function goal data card with a props of goal props. Open that up, and here we're gonna return and have a div with a class name of bg slate 100 divided by 70 rounded 6 pixels and a padding of 5. And then we're gonna have a section here like usual with a goal progress and then a target icon from Lucid React with, you guessed it, a height of 4 and a width of 4. In the section, we're going to have a flex, justify between, gap of 2, maybe even like a padding bottom of 2 as well. Then down here, we're going to have a div with a class name of gap of 3 and a padding top of 2, a section with a class name of flex, justify between, gap of 3. Then we're going to have a div with a class name of width of full and rounded full. And leave this empty for a second. And then outside of here, we're going to have a div with a class name like that. Flex, justify between, text small, opacity 50, and a padding top of 3. Then here we're going to have a goal. And this is going to have the props.goal and the, like this, math.round, props.value made. So just the amount made. And what we need to do here is, for the first time, we need to go to Shadcn UI. And we need to look for the progress. And we just need to install this. So for us, it's going to be this over here. And I don't know why, but it doesn't work. So I'm just going to do this over here. So npx Shadcn UI add progress. Yes. And in here, we're going to have the progress from ./UI. So I'm just grabbing it from UI progress. And then the value here is going to be the props.value, which we already have. And then the class name is going to be border slate, actually border black 20, even 10, so a really small amount. Then bg slate 100 divided by 20 and a height of 2. And now in our page, underneath this section, we're going to have our goal data card. And obviously we're missing a few things, but just to show you this will work, here it is. So it looks pretty cool. And imagine our goal was like $100 and our value as of now is like $20. You'll see it go somewhere. So it looks pretty cool, but we want it to be dynamic. So let's fix that up. And so all we need to do then is, actually, we're going to do it here because you'll see in a second. So goal amounts. So the first thing we will need is our goal amount. So set this to whatever you want. So let's say our goal amount to make is like $1,000. So we're going to do that. And then our progress, goal progress. So how we're calculating the progress of how everything's going is it's going to be the total amount from up here. So the total amount we have made divided by the goal amount times 100 to display it correctly. And so now instead of these numbers, the goal will be the goal amount. So our goal, let's say we set it to 1,000. And then the goal progress will be how well we are doing. So if our goal is $1,000, right? If our goal is $1,000, we will be a certain amount in. And if we've only made $25, which it's not true, so I think we have to divide it, multiply by 1,000 then. Because look, we've made $250, but it's only showing 25. So that should work. It should show 250 now. Perfect. And then our goal, do maybe this. Oh wait, our goal. So down here, goal. There we go. Goal. And I just realized we could just add it here. So there we go. Fixed. So our goal is $1,000. We've made, oh wait, but it's showing, I don't even know. So maybe it is 100 here. Let me see. So instead of a times, so it's times 100. I think that's the correct amount. Oh, so $1,000 is our goal. Times 100 is how much we've made. This is 250, but here it's showing $25 made. So times 100 maybe, or times 10. There we go. So we've made $250, right? So now I guess if we go into our Prisma and we want to update this value again, maybe if you have like, said it was like $300 and we save the changes it should be $350, and this progress bar has moved. Perfect. And just to make sure everything works, let's say we're at the halfway point. Do something like this. This should be 500, thus being at 50%. Perfect. So yeah, that is the entire dashboard analytics dashboard page. So if you're like an entrepreneur or you have a business and you want to display some data on your own page, or you want to just build something for your future apps, then this is just an awesome freaking project that I enjoyed building a lot. And though it's been a little bit of a struggle, we got it done. And so all this data will be left in the GitHub repository, which I'll leave below. But yeah, if you like the video, then like the video. Happy coding, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.